Bienvenue. Les aventures de Frank et Ben. Deuxième série. Frank and Ben go to Winnipeg. Huitième histoire. Frank and Ben go to Winnipeg. Part 8. Frank and Ben, after saying goodbye to the friendly French-speaking security guard who helped them get out of a bad situation, walk slowly back towards Aunt Petunia's. They don't talk much. They just think about what happened in the big cafeteria in the big downtown shopping center. They just think about how going where the action is isn't always the best thing. The sun is going down in the western sky, and it is warm and pleasant as they walk along. Long billowy clouds rest stationary in the lower part of the sky. Some of them are all lit up or made different colors by the setting sun. It is very nice to look at these beautiful clouds. Well, that's our night out in Winnipeg, says Frank. I guess it wasn't so great. But you surprised me when you stood your ground so firmly, answers Ben. You didn't show the slightest trace of fear. Well, you want to know something, says Frank. I was afraid, but I wasn't going to let them know it. Ben looks at his friend with admiration in his eyes. At the same time, he wishes that he could be more like him. Finally, they arrive at Aunt Petunia's house. All the lights are off and the front door is locked. Boy, now what do we do? Asks Ben. Knock on the door. What else? Answers Frank. So they knock on the door, and pretty soon a hall light goes on. Then Aunt Petunia opens the door and stands before them in her nightie. Her hair is in curlers, and she has cream on her face. She looks a terrible sight. She almost looks like a ghost. She certainly doesn't resemble the friendly person who, with a Bible in her hand, greeted them when they first arrived at her door. Where have you two been? She asks sternly. Frank and Ben look at each other. Then Frank answers, We went downtown for a long walk. I guess we lost track of the time. It's 10 o'clock, says Aunt Petunia. I told you I go to bed early. 10 o'clock isn't so late, says Frank. We're not kids. We don't want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Would you prefer to go back to Uncle Bob's? Asks Aunt Petunia. I'll call him right now if you won't respect the rules I set down in this house. Not a bad idea, says Frank. At least we can have some fun with him. Without saying another word, Aunt Petunia goes back into the house. Pretty soon, Frank and Ben hear her calling Uncle Bob. Then they hear her talking to him on the telephone. They hear her telling him that she won't keep them in the house one moment longer if they don't respect her rules. Then they hear her finally hanging up the phone. When she comes back to them at the front door, she says to them, You can wait outside for Uncle Bob. He'll be here in an hour. Then she shuts the door firmly and turns off the hall light. "Boy, what a bitch," exclaims Frank. "Did you ever see the like of that?" "She sure is weird," says Ben. "She treats her house rules as if they were the 10 Commandments. Boy, it's a good thing we didn't make up some story," says Frank. "It's a good thing we didn't tell her that we got kidnapped by some sex-starved females." "What do you mean?" says Ben. "Then she probably would have taken us in. She would have been worried about our souls and had us read the Bible." "Yeah, you're probably right," says Frank. "Still, I'd rather be out here waiting for Uncle Bob than listening to her preaching and reading the Bible to us." So they sit down on the front steps and think about things for a while. Suddenly Frank jumps up and exclaims, "Oh my God, our backpacks are still in the house. How are we going to get them?" "Let's wait till Uncle Bob gets here," says Ben. "Then it won't be so unpleasant." "Yeah, you're right. He'll make jokes and stuff. It'll be better when he's here." So Frank sits down on the front step again, and they both wait for Uncle Bob. First they wait 1 hour, then they wait 2 hours, then 3. Finally, just about the time they're ready to fall asleep, Uncle Bob's brand new pickup truck pulls into Aunt Petunia's driveway. The headlights surprise the boys, and they get to their feet right away. Then Uncle Bob rolls down the window and looks at both of them. He has a big grin on his face. Finally he asks, "Well, did you have a good time in Winnipeg?"